This is Sherm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, Podcasters for India Inc.
Hello folks, Ahalia here and you're catching me on another edition of Sherm Radio. And there are some eternal questions that a lot of us just keep asking. One of them, very common one, to be or not to be. And I think the modern day economic equivalent to that is resign or be fired. We've been facing some rough weather economically for a while now. This is not new information. The pandemic led to layoffs or retrenchments, as some parts of the world call it, resignations in large numbers, and companies that struggled with remote work or saw a drop in revenues downsized dramatically. It has led to a persistent doubt in everybody's mind. Is my job safe? Will I be fired? Should I just quit and move on? Many of us have faced such a situation or seen people close to us struggle with it. Even in more conventional scenarios, is it better to wait to be asked to leave or just go and quit while we're ahead? This is a sensitive subject, of course, and not an easy question to answer. There are two schools of thought on the subject, which for various reasons make fairly convincing arguments. The first claims that it is better to quit than to be terminated or fired. In fact, it's widely believed in the HR sphere that it is better to give the employee an opportunity to resign before being fired. One American HR industry expert said, and I quote, "I would advise the employee to accept the option to resign unless they thought there was an illegal reason behind being let go that they wanted to pursue," close quotes. He has a solid reason for claiming it is the best option. He explained, "Once an employee has been asked to resign, there has been a clear break in the relationship that can't be repaired. If the employee agrees to resign, he or she would avoid escalating any ill feelings and may be able to negotiate a positive reference or a severance payment." Stacey Burke of the American HR firm Expand HR Consulting explained, "Sometimes these changes are because the position is no longer needed if the company's strategic goals changed. It is just a question of how the company arrived at the decision. What she's implying is that in such cases, the onus is on the company to communicate and navigate." That opinion seems to reflect the prevalent conventional wisdom regarding quitting a job, especially if you feel you've not been pulling your weight. While it can be distinctly unpleasant to come to terms with our own suboptimal output or discuss it with anyone, it is advisable to either recognize and rectify before getting called out or get your exit strategy in place. But don't get too distressed by this. HR departments in most organizations take an empathetic view when it comes to such issues. In fact, many career advisors and seasoned HR professionals agree that the best route typically is to give an employee the opportunity to resign before being fired. In general, when an employee is offered such a choice, resign or be terminated, oftentimes it comes about as a result of poor fit with the organization or marginal performance, according to HR experts. If you ever find yourself in such a predicament, it's best to maintain professional conduct and leave on good terms. As one American HR expert put it bluntly, when looking for new employment, it's easier to explain why you decided to leave an organization than to explain why you were fired. Can't really argue with that logic now, can we? But on the other hand, there are supporters of the other point of view. Some respected experts do think that being fired is better in certain scenarios. That might sound counterintuitive, but it does have its benefits. Valerie Keels, who works with the Vaccine Alliance, said, "If the need for separation is outside of the employee's performance, then they should definitely wait to be let go and reap the benefits of any severance package." Close quotes. Even if the separation is due to performance and the employee has not received any advance notice of poor performance, and I quote, "They may also request some sort of remuneration through a mutual agreement to separate and agreeing not to sue the organization for wrongful termination." Close quotes. This becomes all the more important if the employee's age is 40 years or older. But what about a regular resigned or be fired scenario? She says, "If we're talking just quit or be fired, I would suggest being fired. Most professionals can explain that the termination was a result of a poor fit with corporate culture, the organization's mission not aligning with personal values when being considered for another role down the line. Keels implies that we need not get bogged down by our mistakes, but recognize and rectify our position while also looking to make a place for ourselves in organizations that are a better cultural fit. Under Indian law, if your employment has been terminated by the management, you, as an employee, have rights over certain payments at the time of termination. This is what we know as severance pay. It includes payment of salary in lieu of notice, unpaid salary for days worked, encashment of unused paid leave, gratuity, and all that good stuff. You can also contest your termination legally, but unless you have a watertight case, you risk burning bridges permanently to your own detriment. Apart from the basic rights governed by various laws with respect to the employee's working condition, working hours, maternity leave, etc., employees are given protection in the form of certain rights post-termination as well. But it's not all sunshine and roses. However, experts warn that while blue-collar employees are in a better position given their termination is governed by strict statutes, white-collar employees can largely feel like they have been left to fend for themselves. So the consensus seems to indicate that resignation is the more positive choice. It helps maintain cordial relationships with past employers and colleagues, which can prove beneficial down the line. And as the experts explained, termination implies that professional relationships may have deteriorated beyond repair. Exceptions do exist, of course, but in a majority of scenarios that the average working professional is likely to face through the course of his or her career, it may be better to resign or quit than wait to be fired. Some very valid points to be made for both cases, but at the end of the day, it is up to you. And when faced with a choice, of course, one is going to make the right one for themselves. That's all from me, Ahalya, on this edition of Sharm Radio. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back soon with more.
This is Sharm Radio in partnership with Timber Media, podcasters for India Inc.